Welcome to I Drink Your Podcast, where we drink and talk about movies from 2007.
Imagine my little girl, Regular.
Guys, did you see me dance?
No, you waste energy and time.
I turned penis into gold.
Are you okay?
I want to see you naked.
Surprise, dude, you got herpes.
If I did you a ventriloquist.
You're really well dressed for a shadow puppeteer.
What is he gonna culturally appropriate this time?
My man.
I drink your podcast. I drink it up.
Welcome back to another episode of I Drink Your Podcast. We are on episode ? And today we have watched The Mist. And joining me as always is Ben.
Hey!
All right. And Wesley.
Ho ho!
Okay. And Emily.
Hello, I'm not going to do that.
Fair enough. And our guest this week, Dylan. Welcome back to the show.
This is the sound of my voice coming to you live from my nerd closet.
Oh, no.
Wow.
It's filled with Gundam models and model paint.
That sounds very dirty.
Yeah. The nerd closet. It's named. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. So before we get started, does anyone have anything interesting in their glass?
I do. It's Sierra Mist.
Wesley, I also have Sierra Mist in my glass.
I'm just kidding. I wanted to fuck with Ben. I made a dark and stormy because the fog was really light and wasn't due to weather.
Okay.
What's
in
Wesley?
Dark and stormy is rum, lime juice, and ginger beer.
Numbers.
Yeah, it's very good.
It's one of my favorite drinks when going over to do like Caribbean things with Corbin's family from Barbados. It's a good one.
Yum. And a metal straw, let's add. Saving the environment.
Oh, always.
Well, I decided to call this the Misty Mountains for a multiple nerd reason because one, there's mist coming from the mountains in this movie. And so it does have Sierra Mist in it, and then some triple sack and bourbon, which is getting me drunker than I realized.
Bergben. Ben, what do you got?
Well, I mean, obviously, I'm not going to veer too far from my tried and true, which is Sierra Mist. Very rarely do things line up so well in my life as this movie and this drink. But there is a twist to it. Ooh. And that twist is that instead of vodka, it's rum.
Wow, hiding in the mist.
Yep, like straight out of a Stephen King movie. Dylan, what you got?
Well, I'm not since I'm a townie and I'm a blue collar guy. I'm not like all you rich college kids, so I'm drinking just beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
nice.
It's Kona, so it's kind of fancy.
Yeah, it's like Hawaiian and shit.
Yeah.
And there's mist in Hawaii.
They drink beer in the supermarket, so on point.
Budweiser.
Product placement. It kind of made me want a Budweiser, to be honest.
Wow.
No, it didn't. Really?
You're that easy?
It really did. It looks cold, and I was like, man, that guy saw some shit, and, like, what would one of those do to me, Probably have a nice, relaxing time.
You're talking about the Budweiser, right?
So now that we know what everyone's drinking, if you have not listened to the show before, the first half will be discussing and reviewing The Mist. In the second half, we'll feature our Battle of Twits, a creative competition pitting Dylan against me. Our current leaderboard is Matt and Ben with 7, Emily with 6, Wes with 4, and our guests with 0, just because they have recently scored. Today we watched The Mist, directed by Frank Darabont, featuring Thomas Jane, Andre Brager, or Captain Holt from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I don't know how to say his last name. And Marcia Gay Harden. You should have heard the first time I tried that one. So Dylan, share us a little bit about Frank Darabont.
Share us a little bit? Matt.
Most people probably know Frank Darabont from Shawshank Redemption or The Walking Dead. And he's not all about that, but he's actually been involved in horror for a long time, going all the way back to the 1980s, where he and then writer-director Chuck Russell both wrote the screenplay to Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, The Dream Warriors, which is...
There are 3 of those?
There's a lot more than 3.
Dream Warriors was the one that actually, it was a after the second one was kind of a flop, the third one was a big box office hit for the studio and everything. But that also got him in line with people like Stephen King. Stephen King, as everybody knows, is an American horror author who lives in Maine, and thus books take place in either Maine or Colorado.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. But what Stephen King is known for in some circles are his dollar baby movies. And this movie, you could kind of consider The Mist a dollar baby. And what that is Stephen King, since he makes so much money off of his novels, like The Shining, The Stand, Misery, just to name a few, he decided with all of his short stories or novellas that up-and-coming filmmakers could buy the rights to film the adaptation for $1. So there have been a lot of college students and stuff like that who, you need to make a final thesis film or something like that. It's very nice that you can go to somebody like Stephen King, who is a tremendous writer, who's written so much, and you can go to him and say, hey, I want to make blank short story into my thesis movie, and he only charges $1.
That's really cool.
And those are called dollar babies. And actually, Frank Darabont, his first movie was a short he made in 1983 that was a dollar baby.
Guys, do you want to make a dollar baby?
Whoa. I'm not ready for that kind of responsibility.
But that's kind of a short thing on Frank Darabont. He's also written, he wrote The Fly 2 and, wrote and directed The Green Mile, did a bunch of young Indiana Jones adventures, if you remember that. If you were in our age group, Emily's shaking her head no, so that's an automatic. You're not in our age group. He's been a prominent writer, director for quite a long time. So this was pretty nice to see him make it.
So Dylan, you mentioned Frank Darabont did The Walking Dead. What was his role? Is he the director of everything?
Yeah, he was the big producer that brought Robert Kirkman, proposed it to Kirkman, who wrote the comic book, to go to AMC and just kind of propose the show, going, here's great material, let's make this into a show. And he actually directed the pilot episode of the show when it first started. And I think he was only on for the first 2 seasons, and then he walked away due to some contractual issues, or nobody was seeing eye to eye with his vision, or he had so he just walked away. But I think he still gets a producer's credit. So of course he's rolling in dough.
A lot of these big TV shows always have a big name director, usually associated to it as a producer, to kind of get it through the door and made.
Oh,
so something like House of Cards with David Fincher or J.J. Abrams and Lost, there's usually that name associated to sell the story.
Got it.
It looks like he's only done one major thing that doesn't start with the. Sorry, I'm really hung up on that. The Shawshank Redemption, The Green Mile, The Majestic, The Mist, The Walking Dead, Mob City.
His legal name is actually The Frank Darabont.
Ooh.
Please, everybody just relax, okay?
He's right. Let's just stay cool. Let's just try to figure out what happened.
I'm sorry. I can't just stay here. I have to get home to my kids.
Ma'am, no, you can't go out there.
Could be a poisonous gas cloud.
Can you hear that man screaming?
I agree. Let's stay here until we figure it out.
The Mist starts after a huge storm. David and his son Billy take their neighbor to the local store to stock up on supplies. The mysterious mist from the mountains starts to gather around town, and people start disappearing, causing everyone to hide in the store. When checking on the generator, David and a few other characters try to fix it by sending a worker outside. Tentacles attack them. Hell yeah. Killing one of the workers, and David shows the grocery store manager the leftover piece of the tentacle in the back. That was my favorite part, the tentacles. Loved it. Good CGI for the time. Considering Mist.
Was it?
Yeah, I really didn't mind the CGI.
I thought the tentacle CGI was not great.
Well, yeah. It was really hard to do anything in Mist with the tentacle. I think I've seen that example, but it was pretty cool for the time. I guess I just appreciated it for what it was. It wasn't great compared to today's standards, though.
I guess coming off The Host and seeing how good the CGI looked in that one, I expected more from this one. But then I went ahead and read that this movie was only made for $15 million. So they probably didn't have a lot of money to put towards the CGI budget.
the host also didn't come out of the mist.
That's true.
Yeah. You didn't think about that.
One thing I would add about this is that Frank Darabont actually wanted to make this movie in black and white originally because he thought that the short story had such a Twilight Zone feel to it, like the old 1960s TV show, that he wanted to film the movie in black and white. So they were going to do it in post, supposedly. So all of the creatures had to kind of be in brighter colors. I'm not saying that makes up for the fact that maybe the CG didn't look perfect, but that's why they may have done the brighter colors on all of the creatures and the tentacles being that kind of bright pink color that perhaps then in black and white, it would look different because it would have that color gradient that only black and white could do.
That makes sense.
I must have just completely blacked out. I could have prayed on the Bible that these bugs were all just black and white shades of blue.
Well, they typically were, but when those tentacles came in and they attacked, what was that? The Sherman?
The Shermanator.
The Shermanator. When they attacked Shermanator and ripped him to shreds and then dragged him out in the mist. That had a lot of color, but overall there was a lot of grays, and then like the praying mantis, the spiders were all gray.
There was some big color differential with some. Once you kind of got like up close to the weird, creepy other bug-like creatures, like you could see reds and blues and stuff like that on them. So I imagine in black and white that would have stood out a lot more.
Yeah, especially on those close-ups. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also enjoyed the tentacles, but not because of the CGI. It was when it was the close-up of the hooks latching into poor Norm, and when it was chopped off and laying there. And I don't know if they were using some sort of like physical puppet. I'm assuming that it was something like that because it did not look very CGI'd compared to just this long tubular thing sniffing the ground and the dog food moving around inside the storeroom.
Yeah, they actually did. If you watch the credits, Greg Nicotero, who also did all the special effects on The Walking Dead, he's kind of one of the big prominent names in horror out there. Like he was trained by horror master Tom Savini originally, but they did all the special effects on it. So I liked seeing that it was a mixture of CG with practical effect. I miss seeing that in movies now. I don't think they do it enough. And it's kind of a tragedy because sometimes it just looks like they're fighting with, nothing out there. And, we'll just put something in. Just swing the broomstick and we'll put in that you're hitting something.
There was a few times when they went into the spiders, you did get that eye line thing of like, is that spider line up with what he's looking at? And it just didn't connect.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, though, CGI has gotten so much better in the last 13 years that you can forego a lot of the practical effects in favor of the CGI and still create a true-to-life look.
True.
I think that just depends on personal preference, honestly. I look back on a lot of practical effects in not a lot of movies because I don't watch a lot of movies. But I prefer that sort of feel because I know this is a movie. I know this is fake. I don't want it to be super real. But even like I was thinking Lord of the Rings. That was where I was at, where they had a lot more models and figurines and practical makeup and effects that I thought it added more to the immersing into this fantastical world and this movie world. And again, like the Mist is supposed to be Maine, so a real place, but it's still a fake story.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of that same thing where it's just something about having it done practically gives you as the viewer, but I also think as the people who are acting in it, just a stronger feel, like it tethers them to something as opposed to pretending. I know that these are earthly things and less sci-fi, but Fast and the Furious and Mad Max Fury Road, like those two movies, I don't think would feel nearly as genuine or visually cool, for lack of a better term, if they were done by CGI.
I would 100% agree with that. I like the idea of watching a movie going, I don't want anybody to get hurt, God forbid, but I do like that idea of seeing these people did this for real. somebody could have got, rather than looking at it and going, well, that's a green screen and they're underneath like a mattress. So if they fell, they were going to be totally fine.
These are real giant spiders.
Yeah, I think, Wesley, what you said when you said of this world, like, I think movies that take place entirely within the real world or are supposed to, practical effects makes a lot more sense.
Mm-hmm.
But trying to do practical effects within a Star Wars movie wouldn't make as much sense because you're really recreating all of these entirely new visuals that nobody's seen before. And it's a lot easier and time saving to do it CGI than it is to practically build those sets.
Well, it's because it happened in a galaxy far, far away.
Right.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like practical when it comes to like martial arts stuff. So like Jackie Chan, I can really appreciate it. But everything else, it's like if it looks good and the artist blend it well and it supports the director's vision, blend. Is that a word?
No. That's what I'm going to Google right now.
But it doesn't matter to me. It could be either one. It's just as long as it looks good. Whether that's a forced perspective shot, if it's like you're setting something up where there's a giant and a small person or something. So
just blend is a word. So
let's go.
Congrats. So we jumped right ahead to the end of what we're calling Act 1. And I want to go back and talk about the setup of this story just a little bit. I don't have a ton. It's mostly gripes. Spoiler alert for the rest of the episode. I wrote like 6.5 pages of notes while watching this movie, and they're all just, what the hell was this? Why is this? There's a lot of doubles. I had a ton of issue with how they would set up something before we knew it was an issue in the world. And the only reason the characters would make some of these choices were because of something that we didn't know yet as an audience.
Can you give me an example?
Are you maybe thinking the conflict between Andre Braugher and Thomas Jane in the beginning of the movie, how they didn't seem to be too, the wife was kind of trying to sell it as these two guys look like they were going to, at one time beat each other, to death over a tree. But then when they're in the car, he kind of seemed like, well, they're really not that bad at each other.
No, I mean, yes, that is another issue I have about how the whole before the mist rolls into the store or around the store, they spend all this time setting up this rural neighborhood of this small town and talking about the goings on of the townsfolk and setting up these relationships that most of them don't play out. Half the characters don't matter at all. But more what I was talking about before, for no reason. Like we could have just skipped all that. But I think one of my biggest ones that was recurring, nobody was keeping them in this grocery store. And the only thing that they really had to scare them at all was mist came in and then a guy said that somebody died. And then they go back and forth through the whole movie, but in the beginning of some people going out into the mist, some people wanting to go out into the mist, some people seemingly like they're being told that they can't go out into the mist, but then some people just do, some people aren't afraid of it, but why are you in this grocery store if you're not afraid of it? Like, what are you protecting yourself from? Why do you think you need to be saved when you're literally arguing at the same time about that there's nothing to be afraid of? There was just so much of this inconsistency, in my mind at least, about what the hell are we supposed to understand as the logic for these characters?
So I felt that it was the mob mentality of people. No one was really standing up to be a quote unquote leader in the beginning. And I really think going back to, I read the novella this morning and it's pretty short. It's only about 100 pages. You can find a PDF online. And that part to get to what we're calling Act 2, when some people decide to split off and actually try going out into the mist, that's not taking very long. It's supposed to be like within a few hours, and I think that the movie made it seem like they were in the supermarket for longer than they actually were. At least that was my impression that it made. And maybe that's like human nature too, that if you are kind of stuck in there and kind of waiting to see what happens, or waiting for the fire department or the police or something for you to know what to do, that mob mentality takes over and says, well, no one's doing anything, so I'm safer here. And I'm pretty sure in the novella, it seemed like Norm dies pretty quickly on. And so that kind of sparks the fear of, oh, we probably shouldn't go out. And then, of course, there's the other group that decides, oh, we are going to leave and there's nothing to be afraid of. We'd rather go get help.
That's fair. And I think my problem is how you have to condense a story in a movie sometimes. So it's probably just the movie making process of getting that story moved along.
True.
So Norm is a great example of a justification for characters to have real fear. But prior to that, other than Dale, I'm just going to call them by all their Walking Dead names, other than Dale running in and saying that somebody got snatched.
The earthquake.
Yeah, but so? Like, why does that make you afraid to go outside?
Because when was the last time an earthquake happened in Maine?
I don't know. I don't live in Maine.
They don't.
Yeah,
That's
they
the answer.
don't.
As well as that level of visibility. I think it's just the fear of the unknown, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but it keeps going back and forth. And I think that's my issue is, so you have an earthquake and you have a guy saying that somebody got snatched. So that you've got a couple things that are to be scared of.
And he got a bloody nose too. Like, how did he get?
Yeah, watch out.
Did he punch himself in the face and then lie about it? Come on.
No, he fell over.
Yeah, fell in some
Cocaine
stairs.
addiction.
But then, like, right after they say there's something in the mist, Dale comes running in saying there's something in the mist. One of the immediate reactions is some guy going, screw that, I'm going to my car. And then he does scream as if something happened to him. But then Carol says this whole speech about her kids are at home and she just walks out the door. So like they continue to go back and forth on like, is it actually dangerous out there or not? Until we know for sure that the Shermanator gets killed.
You know, I would almost say that now that we're talking about it more and I'm thinking about the plot of it more and some of the characters, but I would almost say part of this movie, I think, deals with the ideas of that mob mentality versus logic and logical thinking, where like Andre Braugher's character is kind of like the logical thinker, or the idea of not of like faith versus logical thinking.
Okay.
Like he's not taking any faith in what anybody is saying because he has no reason to trust or have faith in any of these people. So he's like, well, there's nothing out there. I'm using my logic. I haven't seen anything. So how is that we know that there's anything there? And then you go with the people of kind of faith are kind of going with, well, this guy's running in saying there's something there and we heard a scream. So there must be something. So I have to have faith that these people are telling the truth and not lying. And I'm not meaning faith as in a religious tone.
Trust.
I'm meaning it in a tone of trust.
In that way, though, Dylan, I think Andre Braugher is more of a character of faith because he refuses to look at the logical things that are happening or to even go encounter evidence that might be presented.
Mm-hmm.
Any logical person would have gone to that back area and looked at what this guy was talking about.
It disintegrated, though.
Yeah, but prior to that.
I know.
Yeah, but he's also going off of the idea, Andre Braugher is going off the idea that, you know, as he says, I know that all of you people talk about me behind my back, that I'm not a townie, so I don't trust you. I'm going to trust my brain and my thoughts.
Right. But I agree with Ben in this, where he is not actually using his brain to collect actual evidence. If you actually stack up evidence of the things that have happened, I completely agree with you, Ben. I think that Andre Braugher is a little bit more putting that trust in himself and what he thinks is best.
Do you guys think he's less logic than and more like vanity and overestimation?
Yeah, I think that's probably a good way of saying it. Like he's just got a lot of faith in himself and what he believes and thinks he knows, and to hell with everyone else. Like I'm going to go with what I know.
Right. Because, yeah, I came in thinking he was the, logic versus faith character. But just hearing your take on it, that kind of informs his character a little bit more. I think he was written to be that logical character because that speech he gives about trusting his brain on the way out, right before he goes out, I feel was like, that's why I was like, oh, they're hitting me on the head with it. But like, if you stop and look at his actions.
Yeah, but it's not even trusting his brain. It's trusting preconceived notions about how the world should work rather than collecting evidence about how the world is actually working.
Yes. Yeah. I
right.
would agree
He
with
goes
that.
based off of his emotions, really.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
He's very much led by his emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what are you saying?
What are you proposing?
That we all prepare to meet our maker.
Oh, prepare to meet shit. Lady, your tongue must be hung in the middle so that it can waggle at both ends.
The end time has come, not in flames, but in mist.
Come here. Easy, back off. How about if your ass prepares to meet my size 10 work boot? How about that?
Once everyone starts to realize that the supernatural situation they are in, one group prepares for the long haul and barricades the doors. Another group prepares to leave for help. And the crazy Miss Carmody starts recruiting for her religious crusade. Late that night, giant insects and a pterodactyl break in and injure and kill many people, leading David to taking a group to the pharmacy to get medical supplies, even though Miss Carmody gains more followers due to the bullshit that happened on her chest and the bug didn't attack her or whatever.
So we didn't really get to talking a little bit more in depth of the novella, and I just don't want to talk about it too much, mostly because a lot of the dialogue and a lot of the stuff that happens in the novella is almost word for word in the movie. I actually found that to be surprising because one of the things that I didn't like about this movie was the human interactions and the fights that people were having. They seemed so contrived and ridiculous to me. And I know that when you're put in ridiculous situations or supernatural situations, you don't quite know how you would react. But I think that reading some of the dialogue between the fights between Brent and David, when they go through and they're like, I'm glad my tree fell on your house, and he's freaking out about that, and other arguments that are happening between people, the dialogue itself seems so contrived where it goes from 0 to 60. And I think the one thing that the novella did better is to show David as the first person narrator. You got to hear his inner monologue and hear his thoughts. So you got to know a little bit more of what was going on. And I don't think the movie adaptation did as great of a job of portraying that. And maybe that's David's fault, but I personally did not like the adaptation to screen.
I think the rushing things I had kind of hinted at already was my dislike. And I think maybe as a book, I would enjoy the story more. But one of my favorite 0 to 60 moments is the quote between one of the Hicks and the religious lady when she's talking about preparing to meet your maker. His comeback is immediately, how about if your ass meets my size 10 work boot?
Oh, right.
Like, wow, that's you're really attacking somebody that quickly. But honestly, at that point, I was on her side because her whole stance at that point was, if you're not convinced there's danger, then leave, because you're not worthy of being saved. And obviously my feelings about her changed throughout the movie. But at that point, I was like, yeah, I'm actually kind of with her. Like, just get out then if you're upset.
So what was the moment when you did change your mind about hating Mrs. Carmody?
It probably happened earlier than this, but the one that absolutely sealed it for me was the logical minefield. And I did use that as a pun because it comes with the military guys. They find out that the military caused this, and they have one soldier left, and they are pointing the entire blame of the military's choices on this one soldier who constantly says, I didn't do it, the military did. But how I wrote it down was, God is punishing us for not being good, is her reason for thinking that these monsters are happening. So if God is punishing us by sending these monsters, logically that means that God made the military open up the gate to the other dimension, but it's a single soldier's fault that they did it, so let's kill him, even though it's technically God who made the soldier do the thing that you're now going to punish him for.
Could you imagine Wesley being that soldier and flipping over a chalkboard and being like, all right, here's how your logic is flawed.
For me, like, I always have like a really strong dislike to any sort of religion. And so I thought that this actress did a great job of making me hate her right away.
Mm-hmm.
But this whole idea of she wanted other people getting hurt, she was fine with, and they deserved it because they weren't following God. And as soon as she was implying that it's okay for everyone else to get hurt because of the Old Testament and we have a vengeful God, I was like, what the fuck, lady? Like, what the actual fuck is wrong with you?
She had some real strong Professor Umbridge vibes, too.
She was all over the place on her theology, because one second she was all Old Testament, like vengeful God, and then the next one, she's, first of all, incorrectly calling it the Book of Revelations. That threw me right out of it, because I was like, that's not the name of the fucking book. She was all over the place in what she was talking about, and it made her feel like a crazy person.
She lists 3 reasons why God is mad at humans, and I loved it because the list starts off with walking on the moon, and then it's splitting his atoms, and then abortions.
Yep.
Top 3 right
The
there.
3 greatest sins of humanity.
Walking on the moon.
It's like, why does she have a mini Bible too? Like with her, like her favorite
They all
vengeful verses tabbed, you know? So she's like, this is go time. I get to shout my verses.
Okay, some people do actually do that shit though, Matt. Like, I have seen multiple occasions where people in my life that are no longer in my life bookmarked verses in their Bible to just like throw them at people.
Wow.
When I went to college, I was with the Navigators for like a year and a half, and they're a very conservative evangelical group. And just to give you an idea, one time I was sitting there talking with somebody, and somebody just blurted out going, you know why they got us at 9/11? It's because we're ungodly. And I just went, okay, I'm out. Those are the kind of people that Miss Carmody kind of is there to represent, I thought.
Right.
Is those people that, you know, for some reason, all she reads is the Old Testament and not a whole lot of the New, except for the Book of Revelation. You know, she skips all the good stuff and just goes with the, you know, God's going to get you.
Right.
It's creepy and it's scary, but the thing is, there are people out there that, a lot more than I probably want to think, that are out there that are like that.
She does get a bit of what's coming to her, though, in the form of a can of vegetables.
Yes!
Yeah.
This is my favorite. I have 2 favorite moments, and they go back to this old lady who is a teacher, I guess. She's like one of the old teachers. She's taught everyone in the town, and she fucking throws a can of peas at her boob. And she's just like, shut the fuck up. I don't remember her line, but oh my goodness. That was so wonderful.
Well, the Bible talks about stoning, and I can throw what I want at you because I got a line on a cord.
She also had that bug spray moment. That was
Yep.
pretty fucking dope.
Yeah.
Yes.
The flamethrower bug spray where it's like, let's get kids to do this again. This is fun.
Yes, no, she was by far my favorite part of this entire movie. And her character was actually kind of combined because Amanda was supposed to be the one that threw peas at Mrs. Carmody. But I'm so glad they just like mashed this person and said, no, old lady just doesn't give a shit anymore. This is who she is. Like, that just made my day.
Or it's not that she doesn't give a shit. It's just that Miss Carmody is like that person in the town, and everybody is tired of hearing her say that shit over and over again, and just are like, you know what? Shut the fuck up. Do the world a favor. Shut the fuck up.
So, Emily, did you say that Amanda or Amandria was supposed to be a combined character with that old lady? Or just that one act?
In just that one spot.
Okay.
Like, otherwise, and there were some lines that Amanda didn't have. Like, Amanda was really only the sex with David part. Like, that was really her role.
Sex with David?
What?
Whoa.
Oh, did I not mention this? Okay, yeah. So she has sex with David, and that's why she's the whore. But this happens in the novella where Billy's asleep with the babysitter. It's like glossed over very briefly, where he's just like, oh, she's so hot, and her husband's always out of town, and my wife's probably dead, and we've only been here for like 27 hours. I'm gonna have sex with her. And they go up to an office and fuck.
Well, to be fair, what's the amount of time that you should wait?
Let's go around the circle. Just kidding. We don't need an answer. Yeah. Matt just got married. I don't think we need to go down this path. No, I had a huge problem with Amandria. Just why she was there at all. And why did it need to be a different person? And why it just wasn't the wife? It was 47 minutes into this movie before they even mentioned the mom again.
Yeah, I would say, Wesley, I think part of what this movie kind of suffers from, and I would say this is kind of a criticism of a lot of, I think, of some of Frank Darabont stuff, and even just stuff based on books that have been worshipped, like The Hobbit or The Lord of the Rings, is they either feel they have to fit every single detail into the adaptation when they maybe don't necessarily need to. You know, like Emily is saying here, with a lot of the dialogue is almost verbatim from the novella. Reading something and hearing something and acting something out, the interpretations can be totally different, you know? So I'm thinking this movie kind of suffered from Frank Darabont's way too big of love of the novella that he just felt the dialogue's perfect. I don't have to change anything. And also I would say, you know, it's a 2 hour and 10-minute movie. Did it really need to be 2 hours and 10 minutes long? And that's where I would say it kind of suffers from that idea of it's a 100-page story. Does it need to be as long as it is? You know, did they stretch it out too much?
It's from them. The blood of human sacrifice must come from them. The blood of expiation.
Come on. You try it. Fucking try it! Come on.
We want the boy.
They make it back from the pharmacy, and once everyone learns that it's the military's fault for the monster, Miss Carmody convinces her followers to sacrifice Private Jessup. And the following morning, David takes his son and a few others to sneak out, but they are attacked by the religious freaks. So Ollie shoots Miss Carmody in order to escape. David and his son make it back to the truck with a few others, and they drive away until they unfortunately run out of gas. With the last 4 bullets, David mercy kills everyone in the truck, but a few minutes later, the mist clears and the military passes through to rescue the survivors. Oh yeah, and they see Carol, by the way. Carol's fine with her kids.
Yeah, fuck that, first of all. There's zero chance Carol should have survived. And Frank Darabont said the actress who played Carol was so good that they had to bring her back at the end. And it's like, no, you fucking didn't, because you destroyed the entire credibility of the monsters and your movie.
Well, we never really see where Captain Holt ends up either, right?
He's dead.
Well, I'm sure he's dead, but they don't show it, right?
No, they don't show it.
He went back to his property, and he's with his insurance guy right now. I wish this movie was just a property dispute. That would be fucking sick to see Stephen King.
That's the real twist.
So I do just real quick want to talk about the 4 bullets left in the gun at the end. I didn't realize until afterwards the almost ironic beauty of it, because Ollie had the gun, and we can dispute bullet conservation at some point too, but he's almost out of bullets when they're in the pharmacy. Then he shoots some things, and then he's back in the store, and Ollie's the one who puts down Miss Carmody, and if I'm not mistaken, double taps her, right?
Hell yeah.
So the second shot would have been able to let Thomas Jane quickly end his despair. So I thought that was very funny.
Problem is, you can kill more than one person with one bullet.
Oh, yes. They make a point of it in this movie that you can't have somebody behind something you're going to shoot. So why didn't they just line everybody up like that classic Office scene where one bullet is going to take out 4 people at once?
That's right.
Well, I was just going to say, Ben and I watched this together, and I just kind of said, so she couldn't have just picked up the kid and just put her like right up against
like a meat shield,
you know, her head parallel with his head, and just gone, all right, shoot.
Yep.
I know that's a horribly depressing thing to talk about, but at the same time,
it was already depressing.
How can you shoot your kid too when he looks at you? That was fucked up.
Oh.
I was just like, you became worse than the monsters, the religious lady, everybody. As soon as your son looked up and there's like the 4 shots that you see off screen, I was just like, what? That's our main character?
That's the whole point of the movie, though, is that the monsters that you know are worse than the monsters you don't. Like, the people were the real monsters within this movie, and that at the end just kind of reiterated that. But the twist does not work in regards to this story, because what is it trying to teach us by having this dramatic irony? Like, you need to wait. Is that it? Like, be patient.
Patience.
That's it. It's just be patient.
Patience, bullet, and gas conservation.
He shouldn't have gone back to check on his wife, That's the other difference in the novella. That twist ending doesn't happen. They drive off into the mist and it never ends, and they try to get to Connecticut, and he's like, I got 90 miles of gas. That's all we got. And that's about it.
There's some more unfortunate counting where I'm pretty sure he says his car can hold 8 people. So the original group that runs out to go is 8 people. And thank God half of them die, because if he went back to his house and his wife had been alive and all 8 people were in the car, all right, guess one of y'all is getting out.
Well, I can't get a ticket and get pulled over because somebody can't sit on another person's lap or ride in the trunk. Am I right, boys?
That's right.
So one of my very first gripes was, why does this LA artist have a Jeep with apparently 16 spotlights on it?
I know.
And then I actually laughed out loud at the end of this movie when they have them driving through the mist and he's got all of his spotlights on. I'm like, yeah, you dingus. Like, he's literally got to drive through mist. That's why they put so many spotlights on his truck. There's still no reason for it, but that one got me.
So dumb to me. I think for me, just generally in this movie, I did not like it. I thought there were some nice pieces in it, but overall, I thought that the plot, even in the novella, I was like, I only somewhat liked David's character, and I felt that it was a little strange. But I thought it was very funny when one of Mrs. Carmody's religious freaks, that's just how I'm defining them, because they were all like, kill Officer Jessup and kill Billy, let's sacrifice them. And then she says something along the lines to Ollie, who, first off, I couldn't believe that he was a sharpshooter. That was funny to me too. But she yells at Ollie like, you murdered her. And I'm like, you fucking bitch. You were trying to murder Billy 5 seconds ago.
Yeah. That'd have been sick if Ollie just went off there. He started decapping all the followers. I loved Ollie. He was my favorite character. I would have liked to see John Woo take over for that sharpshooting.
Oh, too many doves.
So there's a fan theory out there that Mrs. Carmody wanted Billy and Amanda to be sacrificed,
right?
Because that would make the monsters go away. And the fan theory is that the killing of Billy and Amanda is what makes the monsters go away, because as soon as David shoots Billy and Amanda, the mist clears and everything is gone. So the fan theory is that Mrs. Carmody was right the entire time.
Ooh.
Wow.
Look at these stunned faces.
What other QAnon theories did you read about?
So I would believe that a little bit more if the mist had cleared immediately. I'm just going to be really, really annoying about this. It would have need to have been a night and day difference.
But that's not how mist works.
It's totally how mist would work if it's from God.
Yeah, supernatural mist.
I have a big problem with the mist. The mist is
both. The movie or the actual thing?
But the actual mist in this movie, knowing nothing going into this, I truly thought it was going to be the mist kills you. But it just turns out to be a visual plot device of not being able to see very far, which, by the way, gets thinner and thinner throughout the movie as you start to see bigger and bigger monsters further away. At the very beginning, you couldn't see more than 2 feet. And every time a new monster came, it got a little bit easier to see them further away. Took me right out of it.
Well, again, that does maybe play into that this is a novella that maybe should not have been made into a movie.
I did ask Dylan, is this like that mist in The Simpsons that turns you inside out? Because I hadn't seen this movie until now, and I thought that's what it was. The mist physically changed you. Or kind of like The Happening, how the trees kind of make you do stupid shit. I thought maybe the mist just made you do stupid shit.
I wrote down The Happening in the very beginning because it seemed like all the trees were attacking all the houses.
Yeah. I made that joke too.
Wow.
Yeah, I really hated that the mist seemed to only be to make visibility less, because even in the very beginning when they closed the grocery store up, that shit ain't airtight. There's no way that you're going to keep out that mist. So I kept thinking to myself, okay, well, they're going to slowly be poisoned or whatever the mist is going to do to them. And then it just turns out that no, it's just foggy outside.
Yeah, I felt that way too. like I said, I did not really like this movie, but the one aspect that I really did like was the lack of music. I find that a lot of horror movies that I have seen, the horror music kind of builds up my fear. And with this, it was so much of silence. And I noticed it right away because it actually made me focus more of what was going on. I didn't have the fear. It was more of just listening to what was happening. And then when they did have music, it was very noticeable to me. So, for example, the behemoth Cthulhu monster walking across and thundering across at the end, magnificently beautiful with the score. I thought that was a great addition to it. But generally, when they were like creeping around or trying to sneak through the mist, it was silent. Or when Andre Braugher and his little clan left, it was silent as they waited to see what would happen. And I thought that was a really great choice in how they structured the movie. And that was actually on purpose. So the fact that I noticed it, I was like, haha, I noticed the thing that you did.
Yeah, today's most horror movies now, I would agree, rely too much on the Sting music. You know, like just something that like...
Yeah, fuck Sting.
Yeah, it is nice to see that. And again, Frank Darabont is kind of old school horror, that it does kind of play into that Twilight Zone or like the old Hammer movies or anything where they didn't always use music to build tension and suspense, and that it was using the visual art of filmmaking to actually make tension and create it. That's kind of a nice thing to see every now and then, rather than jump scare, jump scare, jump scare, gore, 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 jump scare.
Frank Darabont did say he was really proud because when Stephen King was screened this movie, something when it hits the glass, either the person after the pharmacy or when the bug hits the glass, caused Stephen King to jump. And Frank Darabont says like that was like the greatest joy of my life, being able to scare Stephen King.
That is pretty cool.
Wesley, I know you've shared some observations with us. You got any more?
I actually do.
These are just a few of our incredible thoughts.
Why would you give your neighbor a grocery list written by your wife that you know is hard to read? Why would the tentacles only attack and grab the kid? They're all just as close and easily accessible. They only went for the Shermanator. I can't stress enough how stupid it is that they think that stacking dog food and charcoal in front of a giant glass window is going to stop something that lifted a grown man in the air and cut him in half out of the grocery store. Yeah, just stand there and scream at the bug. That'll save you. They only have a few bullets and now defending themselves in a pharmacy. Just leave. Stop yelling at bugs and fucking leave. Out of gas, guess we should commit suicide.
Wow.
Okay, I know what you're wondering.
Now, say my name.
How many times?
Oh God, I did not count.
Oh, it was at least a couple right away.
They constantly said the mist, so much so that even someone who loves to hear it was like, come on, let's use some other words for it. Let's not just call it the mist. Like let's evolve our thinking around this. But yeah, they said it, and they said it too much.
Nobody called it the fog, right? Or they never called it anything else.
Right. I would have called it the fog. It looked more like fog than
Didn't
mist.
it?
Yeah.
Brand awareness.
Math is a wonderful thing. Math is a really cool thing. So get off your act, let's do some math. Math, 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 math.
In my Algebra 2 class, I'm actually teaching all about exponential functions, and I'm going to explain in an exponential function how Mrs. Carmody was able to get so many followers. Ooh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So f of x is equal to 1 times 2 to the x power. This is the function for Mrs. Carmody's followers, where f of x represents the number of followers. 1 represents the starting point of just Mrs. Carmody by herself. 2, because it doubles. And then to the x power represents any time anyone gets killed by a monster, because it doubles every single fucking time and exponentially grows. So there is your movie math today.
Is that how pyramid schemes work?
Kind of.
And then what happens to her followers when she dies?
Obviously, it doubles.
Clearly, because she's a martyr at the end. She lays down like Jesus.
No, but if it's 1 times 2, then when the 1 becomes a 0, then the whole thing unravels.
Oh, love it.
I love it, Wesley. See?
I hate math.
She's really more of a Y.
Yes, she is a variable. She is not.
And when she's alive,
a
it's a 1, and when she's dead, it's a 0.
Yes,
it's binary.
Matt, I'm with you.
I like this.
My senior year, I took remedial math, and I think I did it pass-fail. So math has never been
Matt
my
took
thing.
AP Calc. He's not understanding you.
You guys, it's just doubling. That's all you have to worry about. It's just doubling. Math is not that bad. Just think of it as every time someone dies, it doubles. Fuck you, Matt. You are the one that is perpetuating the stereotypes of math being not for everyone.
Study hall period. Let's go.
Dylan, what's your review for this movie?
First of all, let me just tell you, when I first saw this, was with my now wife, Crystal, in the holiday season. So you imagine I was getting some serious non-action with the ending that this movie had.
Oh.
Well, come on. It's kind of a downer. This is a movie I think tells a good tale of mob mentality and the issues some people can have with religion. Despite it having some logical flaws, even for a sci-fi horror movie, I thought it was good and stands up as one I would enjoy coming back to if I need something on in the background. I think next time I watch it, though, I may watch it in the black and white version to see if it feels any different. I give it 3.5 Crazy Bill Sadlers.
Yeah. Wesley, you got something special for us today for Battle of Twits?
I do. So for our first question, Stephen King got the idea for the source novel when he was in a Maine market. He noticed that the front window was made of plate glass, and he wondered what would happen if a giant insect flew into it. Coke is a hell of a drug. Ben and Emily have tasked me with coming up with my own personal life observations, obviously something that everyone listening knows that I'm a pro at. But my observations in life have mostly come from the wealth of knowledge and wisdom that is Ben's middleest brother, Jake.
Oh, wow.
And I had lived with Jake for, I want to say 7 years. So I've got a long time of taking down notes, and I do actually have a file on my phone of notes of quotes from Jake over these years. So when Ben explained to me what he was looking for here, I just started writing those down. And the way we were discussing it is I would just give one of you one of these quotes. But once I started looking into my notes, I realized there's no way I can narrow this down to just 2. I thought I might be able to put together enough to roll a D20. I do have 10 Jake quotes that are real life. Dylan, you're a guest, so I'm going to roll. If someone tries to stab me, go ahead, stab me. I've seen your face. I will haunt you. All right, Matt. Colorado is the Canada of the Southwest.
Oh my God.
I don't even know what he meant by that.
I don't know how you could not know. And now it's time to play Battle of the Twits. I will pose 3 pointless clouds of questions to our mist walkers. The winner of each round will get 1 bullet to kill his sleeping son. Second place explodes with spiders. I will be more easily cult seduced by the more God-fearing and logical story progression type answers. I still have a lot of gripes about this movie. After my Mistmobile companions and I discuss our options, we'll dish out some judgment and update the leaderboard. So, Twits, are you ready?
Just fucking, I'm so glad to be here for Shoot Sleepy Son. That was chef's kiss, Wesley.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So question 1 is obviously a Wesley's Random Question. You have already gotten some just gold nuggets of life observations from our everybody's brother, Ben's brother, Jake. So with that life observation, I want you to turn that into a Stephen King type story. So, Matt, you got graced with the observation of Colorado is the Canada of the Southwest.
There's a lot of things that need to happen in a Stephen King type story. So one of them is that it either takes place in Maine or Colorado. Thank you, Jake. for giving me the blessing of this taking place in snowy Colorado. And oftentimes there's someone who's a writer or an artist. And my main character is going to be a TikTok writer and artist who is also a stoner and smokes and says the stupidest shit. Colorado is the Canada of the Southwest is the title of my movie, and they do say it. Unexplainable evil forces come. That's another trope. They try to change Colorado and their politics. It's a political thriller run by a sadistic majority leader who is now running for Senate in Colorado, and he wins. Some major disruptions happen to everyone in Colorado, and it's terrifying. Our main character loses all of his weed, and they ban TikTok. And at the very end, we are meant to think he dies in a snowstorm because he has walked away and his former life is now gone.
And Canada.
It was snowy, Wesley.
So is Colorado.
Colorado's snowy.
Which is why it's such a great observation. I need you to come up with a character name.
Jake.
So I do want to know what are the terrifying forces in the politics? It's just politics.
It's literally just like the right-leaning GOP senators coming to like smash all of their liberal rights and destroy their cannabis industry and force them into just the super right-wing politics, Tea Party politics.
So Stephen King is all about like the humanizing of these monsters.
Exactly. Their politicians are the monsters.
Got it.
So the monsters are people?
Yes, in this one, yeah.
There's no like cool monster design happening. It's literally just like a fat white guy.
Hey.
Yeah, you know, it's how sadistic and evil they are, you know.
Okay.
That's where the force of evil comes from. It's not supernatural.
All right. Tough prompt, I guess. Moving on. Moving on to Dylan, who got the infamous quote. Everybody knows it, and they're printing shirts with it on it right now. If somebody tries to stab me, go ahead. Stab me. I've seen your face. I will haunt you.
All right. I have a basically like a back of a book plot thing here.
Ooh, I love it.
My character is again named Jake. It's young Jake is a bad boy. He hangs with the wrong people in the wrong town. But one day he meets up with the wrong person. At midnight during a full moon on Friday the 13th, Jake attempts to rob an old gypsy woman of the rings on her fingers, thinking they're worth a bundle. He corners the woman in the dark alley and pulls out a knife. And she says to him, "Go ahead, stab me. I've seen your face. I will haunt you." He says he don't believe in that ghost shit. And proceeds to stab her and takes what he wants. The next day, as Jake is getting ready and looking in the mirror, he thinks he sees something in the corner of his eye and just writes it off. But as the days go on, that little thing that he was seeing is getting more noticeable. During the period of 1 month, that little thing in the corner of his eye is now all he sees as he sleeps at night and all the time as he works. All he sees is the old gypsy woman, and as he keeps seeing her, she is slowly decaying in front of him. As he slowly goes insane, he sees only one option, and that is to poke out his own eyes. But after he pokes them out, he still sees her in his mind. And when we see him last, he's strapped to a bed in an insane asylum.
So it started off as like a book cover. And then you gave us the whole story. I love it.
Yeah. Hey, some books are getting really bad about the descriptions now.
They don't just write the entire story on the back of books. I don't read very much.
Sometimes they do. It's getting bad.
I don't believe in that ghost shit is something my brother would say.
That's a Jake quote.
That's a Jake answer.
Even though he's also quoted as saying, "I will haunt you." So
right.
Yeah. Dylan, when you first started talking about this young boy, Jake, I was picturing like a 12, 13-year-old boy. And then suddenly later you're talking about, as he goes to work. And I was like, when did he grow up? I must have missed that part.
He could be young as still, like if you're in your 20s or...
He clearly works at a sub shop, correct?
Yes. He works at Herbert's and Gerbert's.
Yeah. He's either delivering Papa John's or Herbert and Gerbert's.
Oh, and it takes place in the town of Derry, Maine. There you go. There's more of a Stephen King tilt.
You know what? I don't think you needed it.
No, I don't think so either. It took away from it, Dylan. How dare you?
My brother's never been to Maine.
All right, on to question 2. So throughout this movie, factions started to develop quickly as the perfect storyline developed. But more groups is always fun. So please invent a new character or use a character that's already in the store and deliver a speech to try to get more people onto your side, whatever side that may be. We're going to start with Dylan.
People, we all know that you're tired and you're scared. We are here and we are witnessing something never seen before on this earth. All of you have been hearing 2 options. Either we follow crazy Cromartie and her vengeful god, or you follow dopey Drayton and his wanting to now leave and go out into the mist. After what we have been witnessing from people who have already walked out into that mystery. There is another way, a way to live forever and ever. We must welcome and embrace what is in the mist. Before we can see it, we must open our hearts, minds, and souls to the great old ones and welcome Yog-Sothoth as he rips open his shirt, showing the seal of Yog-Sothoth etched on his chest.
Oh my God.
These soldiers have not opened a gate to the end of the world, but the birth of a new one. You will live a life of greatness, knowing and seeing all, witnessing miracles and tragedy, all one and the same. Watching and seeing all the governments fall as we all come together. We must come together now and be taken up into his dark embrace. Yog-Sothoth knows the gate. Yog-Sothoth is the gate. Yog-Sothoth is the key and guardian of the gate. Past, present, future. All are one in Yog-Sothoth.
Wow, Dylan. I'm just going to give you some snaps right now. That was a beautiful speech.
Thank you.
You got me convinced to join the cultists.
Is that basically a flying spaghetti monster?
I believe so. He's part of the H.P. Lovecraft, Cthulhu mythos, all that stuff.
He's pretty much, yeah.
Yog-Sothoth is like the thing that will open up, like he knows the past, present, and future.
I did not even get that from your speech. I'm just kidding. You told me everything in your speech.
Yeah.
That's why you convinced me.
Do you have like a rallying cry, like something you yell to like honor Yog-Sothoth?
Oh, damn. I didn't know I'd have to come up with a cheer.
Well, didn't you already say all are one in Yog-Sothoth?
Yeah, I would say that's kind of, yeah, all are one in Yog-Sothoth.
I got you.
I'd go a different route. I go Yog-Sothoth. Yog-Sothoth.
Yog-Sothoth, Yog-Sothoth, Yog-Sothoth!
Like Sikisaki?
No, like Rufio.
Oh.
If I was faster at spelling, I would do the RESPECT of Yog-Sothoth, but just look it up. Matt, you would go a different direction, huh? Let's hear it.
I would specifically wait to introduce this character until after Captain Holt has ventured out, because I can't have him Jill Steining my election here, like I can't have a third party introducing that element. I need to take on the religious fanatic. So this is after he dies. And my character, I think you're going to be able to picture him as soon as I say him, but his name is the Freegan Vegan. He's wearing flip-flops. He's wearing an old poncho, and you can see his hairy legs. He's the Freegan Vegan. Meat is evil. Don't you see, guys? This is madness, okay? Come on down to aisles 1 through 5. Yes, the only just and true aisles that have no meat products inside of them, and no meat was harmed in the making of any of these items in my aisles. Don't you see now? Meat is evil. And that's what these creatures are punishing us four for eating them. They're eating us. They crave meat. We need to sacrifice them meat. Obviously after I fucking take out the lady, and she's just like, oh, I fucking suck. Like, we'll just give them the expired meat, we'll just slide out a little meat and we'll all survive in the grocery store. The freaking vegan.
Wow.
So you're gonna give the monsters the expired meat.
The monsters need the expired meat and then we'll pass because you have appeased them.
It doesn't need to be expired. When did I say expired meat? Did I say that?
Multiple times.
Definitely said expired meat.
That's fair, though. But so you're saying that...
Well, it could be expired, too. I don't know.
So you're saying once the store is devoid of meat, that's when they will be free of the monsters.
Well, that's in theory. I mean, it's at least going to buy them unlimited time. And not to mention, their bodies are going to feel so much better.
That they can run away.
What's the difference between being saved and unlimited time of being saved?
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, like, okay, so like in the mist, right? The mist eventually clears and like the army starts to help out the town. With the freaking vegan, we're going to buy a bunch more time at this grocery store. So it'd be like they could live there 3 months just off of all the food and whatnot and just be living happy, free, helping each other out. And then there's like a crazy lady talking about the Bible shit, but it's like, come on, lady, just relax, and then you hit her with the drum circle.
I like it. I think I was going to say, I think, sacrificing meat to human meat sounds a little bit more reasonable to me.
Right. Right.
All right. On to the final question. The dimension that these monsters came from seems to be very diverse. Mostly just different sizes of things, but still, there were a lot of them. So if I had my one true wish, this movie would have been longer. And maybe something else was hiding in that mist. If you couldn't tell, I've been very sarcastic. But what would the thing in the mist be, and why should they be more afraid of it than the dimensional insects? So we'll start with Matt again.
Something's hiding in the mist. What do you hear? Do you hear that music? What is it?
Oh.
Is it all brass? Is it all trombones? Is that ska I hear? Yes. They should all be terrified of ska. Ska music is on loop, and you can't tell exactly where it's coming from because of the mist. And it's unrelenting. You try to cover your ears, but without a sealed helmet and professional gear, you will go insane and fucking kill yourself. Just like with real ska. So there was that movie where you couldn't talk, The Quiet Place. You had that movie where you couldn't see, Bird Box. And then this would make that movie where you couldn't hear, The Mist.
So, is this a ska band is in the mist, or do the interdimensional insects just love ska music and they brought it with them?
Well, I mean, it's difficult to place a physical. I guess it is a band. Let's just say it's a band playing, but because of like the terrifying nature of the music, they can't pinpoint where it's coming from. It's almost like it's coming from above or from the side. You turn, you're like, it's a different way. So it's not like they could ever find it. Mm-hmm. But let's just say the ska band is playing near the window at the base that ripped the window open. Can you just imagine the destruction to like, I'll give myself a beer.
Thank you for actually quoting a ska song.
Thank you.
I know that you know that I used to love ska.
You did beautifully, Matt.
Thanks.
So Dylan, what are we going to find in your mist?
There is something hiding in the mist that men, women, children, and old gods like Yog-Sothoth fears. As the end seems near, the people in the store hear an unusual sound, but see nothing. Then people hear the back room doors open, and a man and a woman step out. The woman is a short woman with blonde hair, and the man is wearing a long brown trench coat, blue suit, and a pair of Chuck Taylor All-Star high tops, carrying a blue glowing object that appears to be like a wand. The first words from the man are, Rose, go to the glass front and move the people to the safety into the TARDIS. As the people are being ushered in, all they can say is, it's bigger on the inside. As Rose ushers them and goes, yes, it's bigger on the inside. Yes, we get it. The people who will not enter ask, who are you? While pointing knives and bludgeoning type weapons as he responds, I'm the doctor. As he runs out into the mist yelling, Allons-y! The mist parts and does not cover him, for it knows of his greatness and knows that he can and will destroy it and whoever else gets in his way. Yes, Doctor Who is the one thing that is out in the mist that is scarier than the mist. Why? Because he has the powers and the ability to destroy worlds, universes, and dimensions. He has even gone far enough to destroying his own people. He, his blue box, the TARDIS, his sonic screwdriver, and companion have faced worse things in all of his lifetimes. You do not want to be on his bad side, or he will make you feel his wrath. So what else is out in the mist that all should fear? It is the Doctor.
I love it because this absolutely now feels like a setup for a Doctor Who episode. But I think the question was more about why should these people be afraid of the Doctor? And you kind of answered it, but he's both savior and potential executioner.
And that's how he is in the world of Doctor Who. He is seen as, to quote like the movie or the story of Hellraiser, he is an angel to some and a demon to others. It just depends on how he feels that particular day on what's going on.
Does he destroy the people who don't go into the TARDIS?
No, he doesn't, because he knows that they are not necessarily the ones in horrible danger, and he knows of what's going on. He's so smart. He knows what's going on around him. He knows of the mist. Which I will say works into Doctor Who canon, because I did look this up, and I'm going off of if my theory of Yog-Sothoth is real. Yog-Sothoth has fought Doctor Who in the Doctor Who universe.
Is that the planet one?
Nope. He is the Central Intelligence, if you remember from the Matt Smith seasons.
I'm not following at all. I don't watch Doctor.
He's also fought with the second Doctor. That's where it was established that he was Yog-Sothoth.
Gotcha.
Which version of the Doctor is it?
This version is going to be Tennant. Is going to be the 10th Doctor.
Obviously, you should have known that by how he described his outfit, and then Rose.
Yeah, no, nerd.
I've never seen it.
I've only
that
seen
one was
the
just
one
for
with
Dylan and I.
Christopher something or other. I don't remember his actual name.
Christopher Eccleston feels more like someone who would be in a Darabont movie.
Yeah, but guess what? They're all the same person, so you're right.
And also, Wesley likes David Tennant because he's the weird
Barty
tongue
Crouch
flicky.
Jr.
Yeah, Barty Crouch.
So, question 1, brought to us by the help of Jake, but taking other life observations and turning them into a Stephen King story. Matt, you had Colorado as the Canada of the Southwest.
Which it is.
Yes, so you basically took the prompt and said, my work's done. I don't think you included Canada very much, other than, again, it's the reason that the observation was made. And I don't think it was very much of an actual Stephen King story. Where Dylan, I thought it was a great Stephen King story. I really liked the idea of, I don't know if you meant it this way, but as you were describing it, the like little thing that he sees out of the corner of his eye starts to grow more and more, like if it actually physically took over his vision, which is how I was interpreting it. And I thought that was a really cool thing. I don't know how you would do that in a movie, but in a story, that's a really cool thing. So Dylan's getting question 1.
Reminded me a lot of Thinner.
I hate to say that's kind of where I got it.
Well, don't say that. I don't know what that... You lucked out that I didn't know what that was.
So, Dylan, you just say thank you.
Thanks, Wes!
I said it, fucker.
I want to say, like, I feel like Dylan just is like an encyclopedia of, like, this supernatural knowledge, and that's what makes him such a great guest. So it's like, everything's pretty much been done. I mean, there's not a lot of.
Oh, there's one thing that hasn't been done, and it's your answer for question 3.
But
So don't sell
no, I
yourself
was just
short.
saying, like, I think like Dylan is just like using that as like a jumping off point, but it's like you could literally use that wealth of knowledge to pretty much create a great supernatural story from anything. So
yeah, Dylan's a great guest.
like hearing your answer. I loved it. I loved it.
you. Thank you.
That's
You,
so
you see,
sweet of
Trump,
you,
that's how you
Matt.
concede. All right. Question 2. We have lots of factions, and we wanted you to add another character who starts their own group within the grocery store. Dylan, you went with someone who is seemingly obsessed with Yog-Sothoth and has another way to live forever with what's in the mist and obeying the gods. Matt, freaking vegan. It's very funny. You described it very well. It was super visual. I liked how you timed it out. I like that you had an actual plan. Meat is evil.
very
This
compelling.
is madness. Yeah. Come down to aisles 1 through 5, the only true aisles with no meat. And then you actually had a solve where they would give the meat in the store to the monster to both end the terror and make themselves be healthier and happier. So that one's going to Matt.
It's a different lifestyle.
I guess so.
Dylan, we loved yours, but the only person that you'd really win over is anyone who's already like semi into Cthulhu horror, Lovecraftian stuff.
Maybe a little bit more backstory about what Yog-Sothoth
the
is.
cultists would trick them.
I was going to say in the H.P. Lovecraft mythos, that would take a lot longer than a minute. And a
Right,
half.
I'm sure.
Oh, definitely.
Alrighty, so we're tied at 1-on-1. Question 3. Something else is out in the mist. What is it? And why should they be more afraid of it than the monsters and bugs? Matt, never in 1,000 years would have assumed that somebody would have said ska music to that answer. I absolutely loved the singing, ska on loop, the going crazy. But my absolute favorite part was that you got it shoehorned into an existing trilogy. And I think that was just really brilliant. I really, really like that. So The Quiet Place, Bird Box, and The Mist are somehow in a trilogy. Dylan, you started out with saying something similar where there's an unusual sound out in the mist. And for the briefest second, I thought you were going to say ska. And I really wanted that to happen. But you meant the TARDIS, right?
Yes, the TARDIS groan, yes.
Yeah, and similar to question 2, I think I was the only audience. Well, I mean, I'm sure people listening will be, but as far as this recording, I think I was the only audience for this one. But I think where it fell apart was kind of, I was looking for more of an answer of something that everyone in the store should be afraid of, not the saviors. I do love, like I said before, this absolutely could be a Doctor Who episode. I think it would fit into everything that show is about and how things work in that show. I did love that. But Matt, I think that trilogy really is what put it over for me, and just the what the hell. How much were you on where you thought
the briefest moment I wanted to do Chad Kroger and Nickelback?
Oh, you'd have lost. You'd have lost.
Because, like,
wise choice.
Like, I was like, how do I attack Wesley? But then I was like, oh,
I'm the judge.
genre.
Why are you attacking?
It's for fun. The listeners.
And why did I go with Doctor Who? Who's the person judging this? Is Wesley?
Yeah. No, I think, Matt, you're learning. And I think we also just realized why Matt has such a poor winning streak, because he likes to attack me. But anyway,
congratulations,
yes,
Matt.
Matt, you win this one 2-1.
Yes. Woo!
Sweet victory.
So that's been our show. Dylan, thank you so much for being on again.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you'd like to talk about or promote to the good people?
You know, I'm going to plug since it's mostly all horror stuff that you guys got me working on. Look at going to Shudder, the streaming service. About $5-6 a month, people. It's good stuff. You get to see Joe Bob Briggs. If you grew up watching Joe Bob on Monster Vision, you can grow up watching him even more on Shudder. So,
and you're not being paid to say this, correct? This is just you plugging it.
No, I would also say watch the last Patrick Willems video. It was priceless, and I got into quite some arguments
really
with
good.
some Facebook people, basically telling them comic books are not for you anymore.
Oh,
It's really great.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Thank you for being on again. And if you
Thank
guys
you
are
again.
still listening. Be sure to like and share and subscribe, rate, and do all the things that help podcasts grow. And yeah, have a happy new year. So Ben, can you tell us what our next movie is going to be?
Yeah, the next movie we're going to do is The Condemned, which is the Stone Cold Steve Austin action movie. And that will be our first movie of the new year. And it's just going to be the main gang. It's me, Wesley, Emily, and Matt.
Main gang.
Yeah.
The gang watches The Condemned. Another The movie.
Let's go.
Matt, you're at 9 points, by the way.
I know.
Wow.
Almost made it in a full year.
Actually, I couldn't quite get there before the new year.
It's so close. But yeah, I had a fun time watching this with you guys, and have a happy new year.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank
Thanks
you,
for
everybody.
listening.
Bye-bye.